The twin suns were setting over the wide fields of Arden 3, a small human colony world at the edge of the Milky Way. The sky was painted in colors of gold and purple, and the wind moved softly through the tall grain. A man named Eli Harlan stood beside his old tractor, wiping sweat from his face. Life was quiet here, just him, his crops, and a few machines older than he was. Eli liked the silence. After years of galactic war and endless politics, he wanted nothing but peace. The war between humans and the Draegir Empire had ended 5 years ago. The Draegir were said to be tall, fierce warriors who believed mercy was weakness. Eli had never met one, and he hoped he never would. As the day faded, a bright streak flashed across the sky. It was fast, glowing red, leaving a long trail of smoke behind. Eli frowned. It wasn't a meteor. It was falling too slow. Then came the sound, a loud crash far out in his north field. The ground trembled beneath his boots. For a long moment, Eli just stood there, staring at the smoke rising from his crops. "Not again," he muttered. "Please don't be another broken cargo drone." He grabbed his old pulse rifle just in case and rode his tractor toward the crash site. The night came fast, and the light from the burning wreck guided his way. When he arrived, his heart began to beat faster. The wreck was no cargo drone. It was a small alien dropship, half buried in the soil. The hull was black and silver, marked with strange, sharp letters that glowed faintly blue. Eli climbed down and moved closer. The air was hot, smelling like burned metal. Then he heard it, a groan, low and deep. Someone was alive inside. He found him lying near the open hatch, a huge alien, at least 7 feet tall, with gray skin and heavy armor cracked in several places. Blood, dark purple in color, leaked slowly from a wound in his side. For a second, Eli froze. His mind screamed, "Draegir." The alien turned his head slightly. His eyes glowed amber and his voice came out rough. "Kill or help?" Eli lowered his rifle. "Help," he said softly. "Just stay still." He didn't know why he said that. Maybe because the alien sounded less like a monster and more like a man in pain. Eli dragged him out of the wreck with effort, using all his strength. The alien was heavy, his armor clanking against the dirt. Once outside, Eli called his farm's old med drone to assist. Together they took the alien to the barn, laying him on a bed of hay. The drone scanned the wound and started treatment. Eli cleaned the armor, trying to understand the strange design. It was full of scratches, each one shaped like a mark of honor or battle record. When the alien woke later, he tried to sit up, but pain forced him down again. "Easy," Eli said, offering water. "You're safe here." The alien looked around the barn, confused. "You are human," he said slowly. "I am your enemy." "Not today," Eli replied. "You're just a hurt traveler in my field." The alien stared at him for a long moment, as if trying to read his soul. Then he said, "My name is Torvak, chieftain of the Bloodfire clan." Eli nodded. "I'm Eli, farmer." Torvak frowned. "Farmer?" He seemed to test the word as if it were foreign. "You are not warrior?" "Not anymore," Eli said, voice quiet. "I fought once, but fighting never grew food." Torvak's gaze softened slightly. "You risked your life to save me." "Why?" Eli shrugged. "Would you rather I left you to die?" The alien didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the water container in his hand, then drank it slowly. The movement seemed almost ceremonial, like it meant more than simple survival. Through the night, Eli checked his crops and returned to the barn again and again, making sure the alien was alive. He shared bread and soup even though the Draegir barely touched human food. At one point, Torvak asked, "This food, your people give it freely?" Eli smiled. "When we have more than we need, yes. That's what being human means." Torvak leaned back, staring at the barn's wooden roof. "Strange species," he muttered. "You fight great wars yet live in silence. You destroy empires yet grow wheat." "Guess we like balance," Eli said with a chuckle. Outside, the night was peaceful. Crickets sang. The stars glittered. For a moment, 2 former enemies shared the same silence, and it felt right. Before dawn, Torvak stood up, still weak but determined. "I must go," he said. Eli tried to stop him. "You're not ready to move. You'll reopen your wound." Torvak shook his head. "My warriors will find me. If they see me weak, they will challenge me. I cannot allow that." As he stepped outside, the sound of engines filled the air. Eli looked up and saw several dark shapes descending, Draegir ships sleek and deadly. He raised his hands, but Torvak lifted one arm, signaling the ships to hold fire. They landed gently, their engines humming like thunder. From them came armed soldiers in black armor. Eli felt his stomach tighten. But to his surprise, the Draegir knelt before Torvak. One of them said, "Chieftain, we feared you dead." Torvak pointed toward Eli. "This human saved me. He gave water, food, and honor." "Remember his face." The soldiers turned toward the farmer. Their glowing eyes stared at him, not with hate but with respect. Eli felt awkward and muttered, "You're welcome, I guess." Torvak looked at him one last time. "You have given me something no warrior ever did, mercy. Among the Draegir, such a debt is eternal." He pressed his fist to his chest in salute. Eli, not knowing what else to do, nodded back. The ships rose into the air again, disappearing into the sky. The roar of engines faded, and silence returned. Eli stood alone in the dawn light, staring at the burned grass where the ships had stood. He rubbed his neck, half smiling. Well, he said to himself, that was new. He thought he would never see them again. Just another strange day on the edge of the galaxy. But as the suns rose, the air began to tremble again. Shadows moved over his fields. Eli looked up, eyes wide. The Draegir ships were coming back, and this time they were not crashing. They were landing on purpose. The morning sun stretched across Eli Harlan's fields, casting long shadows over the golden grain. The air smelled of fresh earth and dew. Eli had barely begun his daily chores when a distant hum grew louder, vibrating through the soil beneath his feet. He paused, wiping his hands on his trousers, heart tightening. The hum became a deep, steady rhythm, the sound of engines massive and alive. Eli looked toward the horizon and froze. Draegir ships were landing in his fields. This time there was no crash. The ships moved like giants, descending carefully from the sky, their metallic hulls reflecting the sunlight. Dust swirled around the landing gear as the enormous vessels touched the ground. Eli swallowed hard. Are they here to fight? He wondered. He grabbed a spade for courage, though he knew it would do little against alien warriors. From the largest ship stepped Torvak, the wounded chieftain he had saved just the day before. But now he stood tall, fully armored, his wounds seemingly healed. Behind him were dozens of Draegir soldiers, moving with a disciplined silence. But what made Eli's eyes widen even more were 5 alien women, walking gracefully behind Torvak, dressed in colorful robes that shimmered like water. Eli stepped back, instinctively placing himself between his barn and the newcomers. He felt a mixture of awe and confusion. Torvak approached, his massive frame towering over the farmer. "Eli Harlan," he said, his deep voice calm but commanding. "You have honored me beyond measure. In my people's tradition, life debts are repaid with gifts worthy of kings." Eli blinked. "Gifts?" he said slowly. What do you mean?" Torvak gestured to the 5 women. "They are skilled in art, knowledge, and wisdom. They are my people's finest. I bring them to you as a symbol of gratitude." Eli's heart sank. He stepped forward, raising his hands. "Wait, I cannot accept." "I do not. Humans don't. This is not right. You cannot give people as gifts." The chieftain's amber eyes narrowed slightly. "It is our way. To repay a great favor is to honor life." Eli took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm. He looked at the 5 women. They were beautiful, yes, but they were also proud and intelligent. They did not seem frightened, only expectant, standing tall beside their leader. "I understand your tradition," Eli said carefully, "but in my world, freedom is the greatest gift. You saved me yesterday. That is enough. You do not need to repay me with people." Torvak paused, his massive head tilting in thought. Around them, the Draegir soldiers shifted uneasily. It was clear they had never encountered a human who refused gifts. One of the women, stepping slightly forward, spoke. Her voice was soft but firm. "We are not afraid, chieftain. This human is different. He treats life with respect." Eli blinked at her. She was not just observing. She was judging, testing the wisdom of her own people. Her name was Runa, though Eli only learned it later through gestures and Torvak's slow translation. Torvak's jaw clenched. He looked at Eli, then back at Runa. "You understand?" he asked. Runa nodded. "I do. Freedom is not weakness. It is strength." The chieftain stared at Eli for a long moment. Then slowly, his massive shoulders relaxed. He gestured toward a chest beside him, heavy with jewels and artifacts. "Then take this," he said. It is not life, but it is treasure. Enough to honor our bond. Eli looked at the chest. The metal glowed faintly, inscribed with runes that shimmered in the sunlight. Inside were gems that seemed alive, crystals that pulsed softly, and strange devices that hummed with energy. He shook his head. I don't need treasure, he said, voice steady. I only need peace. That's all I ask. Torvak's expression softened further. Then I shall leave these gifts with you. As friends, not as repayment. Eli felt the tension in his chest ease slightly. He gestured to the women. And you? What happens to you? Runa smiled. We return to our people, but I wish to learn. This human shows strength of heart. Torvak's brow furrowed, then he nodded. Then she may stay a short while to understand humans. He looked at Eli. And you may teach her what you know. In return, we offer protection, friendship, and knowledge of the stars. Eli swallowed, astonished. He had never imagined he would have a Draegir ambassador on his farm. I can do that, he said finally, glancing at Runa. She gave a small bow of respect. Torvak clapped his massive hands once, the sound echoing across the fields. His soldiers began unloading small crates of technology and supplies, devices that could help Eli improve irrigation, strengthen his barns, and even grow crops faster. Some of the materials were strange metals that glowed under sunlight. Others were seeds that seemed almost magical in color and shape. Eli's farm, once quiet and modest, began to feel alive with possibilities. He felt awe but also humility. A simple act of kindness had brought the galaxy to his doorstep. Torvak looked at the farmer and then the woman beside him. You humans are strange, he said, voice rumbling. You fight with courage yet care for the weak. You conquer and create. This is wisdom we do not often see. Eli chuckled softly. Maybe we just survive by being stubborn. The chieftain laughed, a deep sound that shook the ground slightly. Perhaps. But you also fight wars with mercy, and that is strength. As the sun climbed higher, Eli showed Runa the barns, the fields, and the small streams running through his farm. She observed carefully, asking questions through Torvak's translator device about irrigation, soil, and the growing cycles. She even touched the grain, marveling at its color and texture. Eli smiled. It's simple, really. You plant, you care, you wait. The earth gives back what you respect. Runa nodded. And humans respect life in ways even we warriors often forget. By the end of the day, the Draegir ships were still parked in the fields, but there was no fear. Instead, there was curiosity, wonder, and even laughter as Torvak and his soldiers watched Eli cook a simple meal over an open fire. Bread, roasted vegetables, and fresh milk. Simple things that the Draegir had never tasted. Torvak leaned back against a tree, arms crossed, eyes glowing amber. Perhaps there is more to humanity than blood and battle, he said. Eli shrugged, smiling. We're not perfect, but we try. Sometimes that's enough. The sun set once more and the sky turned shades of pink and orange. Eli felt a strange peace. He had saved a chieftain's life, and in return he had gained a friend, a teacher, and a bridge to the stars. And as he watched the Draegir prepare to leave, Torvak looked at him one last time. Remember this day, human, he said. The Bloodfire clan will not forget the farmer who taught us mercy. Eli nodded. He watched the massive ships rise, carrying treasures, technology, and knowledge, but also a promise that kindness, even from one human on a lonely farm, could reach across the galaxy. The wind moved through the fields again, whispering through the grain, and for the first time, Eli felt that his simple life might change the universe in ways he could never imagine. Months had passed since Torvak, the Draegir chieftain, had returned to Eli Harlan's farm with his unusual gift. The stars above Arden 3 no longer seemed distant or silent. Eli's small farm, once quiet and ordinary, had grown into a place of curiosity, innovation, and hope. At first, the villagers had been wary. Stories of Draegir warriors, fierce, warlike, and feared across the galaxy, had traveled faster than light. Many wondered why the chieftain had returned to a human's farm, and even more wondered about the 5 women who had come with him. But Eli had explained everything: kindness, mercy, and the principles of human freedom. Slowly, the village began to understand. Runa, the woman who had stayed behind as an ambassador, had become Eli's closest companion. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, wise, curious, and unafraid to question. She learned quickly, asking about soil, water, and the simple mechanics of the farm. At night, she would sit with Eli under the twin sun's fading glow, gazing at the stars and ask him about humanity. "Why do humans continue to plant even when so much is uncertain?" she asked one evening, her amber eyes reflecting the firelight. Eli smiled softly. "Because hope is stronger than fear. We plant for tomorrow even when we cannot see it." Runa nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps this is why you humans endure. Not strength, not weapons, but patience and heart." Their bond was growing, but Eli knew the real change had begun elsewhere. The Draegir Empire, once feared across countless star systems, had started to notice. The tale of the farmer who fed the chieftain spread like wildfire among the stars. Ships that once carried soldiers now carried traders, scholars, and curious travelers. They came to see the human who had taught an alien chieftain the value of mercy. One morning, Eli stood at the edge of his fields as a fleet of Draegir vessels hovered above the farm. Torvak descended, this time without armor, smiling as he approached. "Eli," Torvak said, his voice deep but warm, "the clans have heard of your deeds. They wish to learn from you. From humans. From your patience, your kindness, and your wisdom." Eli laughed nervously. "I'm just a farmer. I don't know much about the galaxy, only about crops, water, and hard work." Torvak shook his massive head. "You know more than you think. A heart that chooses mercy over hatred. This is knowledge the Draegir have never mastered, and now they seek it." Over the next few weeks, Eli worked with the Draegir, teaching them the basics of agriculture, farming tools, and even the human ways of trade and cooperation. Runa helped translate and guide the visitors, explaining why humans valued freedom and respect. The Draegir soldiers listened with unusual attentiveness, asking questions and sometimes smiling when they understood. One day, Torvak led Eli to a special plot of land near the edge of the farm. "These seeds are from my world," the chieftain said. "They are hardy, but they require care. Can your people grow them?" Eli took the seeds in his hands, feeling their weight and energy. "We'll try," he said. "And maybe together we'll grow something better than either of our worlds has ever seen." The field soon became a laboratory of sorts, filled with hybrid crops, some glowing faintly under the sun, others growing taller and stronger than ordinary wheat. Villagers, once skeptical, marveled at the results. Children ran through the fields laughing, while Draegir soldiers helped with watering and tending, their massive hands surprisingly gentle. Even the 5 women who had come with Torvak played their part, not as gifts but as teachers and friends. They shared knowledge of medicines, star navigation, and art. Their presence brought joy, curiosity, and understanding. Eli often found himself staring at the night sky, thinking about how one small act, feeding a wounded alien, had changed everything. His simple choice of kindness had grown into a bridge between 2 worlds. One evening, Torvak approached Eli and Runa as they worked under the stars. "You have changed my people," he said, eyes reflecting the starlight. "The clans speak of humans with respect, of mercy with awe. You are more powerful than any army, Eli. Your farm has shown them the strength and peace." Eli shook his head, humbled. "I didn't do it to change anyone. I just did what felt right." Torvak smiled, placing a massive hand on Eli's shoulder. "And that is why it is so powerful. The galaxy will remember this day. Your name will live in stories, not as a warrior, but as a human who taught the Draegir to see the worth of life." Runa, standing nearby, added softly, "And you taught me too. Humanity is not just clever with tools, it is clever with heart." The months turned into years. Eli's farm became a meeting place for humans and Draegir, a center of exchange and learning. Messages and trade came from distant worlds, drawn by the story of the farmer and the chieftain. Eli never sought fame. He simply tended his fields, cared for the hybrid crops, and shared meals with friends from across the stars. One day, a young Draegir child approached him, carrying a small bundle of seeds. "For you, human," the child said, smiling shyly, "to remember us." Eli took the seeds carefully. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "We will grow them together." Torvak stood nearby, watching the interaction. "You see, Eli? You have planted more than crops here. You have planted trust, friendship, and hope. That is a legacy no weapon could ever give." As night fell, Eli sat on the porch of his farmhouse with Runa by his side. The twin moons rose over the fields, silver light spilling across golden wheat. Draegir ships floated quietly above the horizon, not as threats but as friends. Eli smiled, watching the stars. I never thought a simple choice could change so much. Runa leaned closer. It is not simple, she said softly. It is human. They sat together in silence, letting the wind whisper through the crops. Somewhere in the galaxy, wars had ended and peace had begun, all because a farmer had fed a wounded alien chieftain. And Eli knew, as he watched the Draegir children playing with human children, that this was only the beginning. Humanity's influence, small but bright, would spread across the stars, not with guns, but with heart, kindness, and courage. The night deepened, stars twinkling like distant fires, and Eli whispered into the quiet, "Guess humanity still has something to teach the galaxy." And the wind seemed to answer, rustling through the golden fields, carrying the promise of friendship, understanding, and hope to worlds far beyond Arden 3.